If you're an author or plan to be one, get excited because this podcast is for you. Book Marketing Mentors is the only podcast dedicated to helping you successfully market and sell your book. If you're ready for empowering conversations with successful marketing mavens, then grab a coffee or tea and listen in to your host, international best-selling author Susan Friedman.
Welcome to Book Marketing Mentors, the weekly podcast where you learn proven strategies, tools, ideas, and tips from the masters. Every week, I introduce you to a marketing master who will share their expertise to help you market and sell more books. Today, my special guest is an award-winning author of novels and screenplays. For over 25 years, R.J. Lewis, born Robert Joseph Lewis, has made his living as a professional entertainer, magician, and Broadway performer. He's been seen in several films and graced the small screen as well. He currently has over 15 published books and 25 awards. His novel, The Muse, a novel of unrelenting terror, has won 14 awards in the horror category. He's also the author of In the Mind series, which consists of 9 novels and many more to come. RJ, what an absolute pleasure it is to welcome you to the show. Thank you for being this week's guest expert and mentor.
Thank you for having me here. It's really an honor and a pleasure.
Well, Jay, it's a special honor for me to invite a fiction author to this podcast because, as you know,
Yes.
I focus primarily on nonfiction and building an author marketing platform. But you recently were kind enough to share your wisdom on how to market books while also being a full-time writer. I think a great segue.
Oh, yeah, very good segue. Yes. Well, the thing I say anytime I do any kind of speaking, and I'm speaking to writers, I say to the honest truth, which is I am a student like you. I am constantly learning. And with the way book marketing has changed and is changing all around us every month, it's a little bit different. You constantly have to stay a student. So that is the first thing I recommend anybody is remember you're a student. Don't stop learning.
Marketing, whether you're a fiction or a nonfiction author, is critical. And I know you have a certain philosophy why writers should probably study marketing rather than just studying writing. Talk to us about that.
You know, it's very interesting because my wife actually went to college and got a business degree. But the marketing she learned back then, this was back in the 70s, maybe the 80s, is very different from the marketing now. How you approach people, how you do. I mean, no one back then could see social marketing and going on to Facebook and Twitter and all of these social media places. That has opened up tremendous doorways. The important thing with any kind of marketing is try to make it sincere. You know, if you just come out and say, I wrote a book, it's great, you got to read it. Better to read a page of the book on social media or something like that. Let the people see your love of what you created and sell that love. I mean, that's what I've done as an entertainer is I love performing. And then I didn't sell them on specific things that I did. I sold them on the love of what I do. And that's how I was able to successfully work for 45 years doing magic and performing.
And that brings up a really important point, and that is the passion that you have for your own work. Many authors say to me, well, will you market the book for me, or who can I get to market it? And I said, you know, the best person to market the book is you yourself, because
Absolutely.
That passion, nobody else can have that passion for your baby.
And one of the things you should learn is the famed elevator speech. You should be able to tell what a book is about in 2 lines. In less than 30 seconds, you should be able to tell somebody exactly what the book is about and what's exciting about it. And that's good when you get to the point of making the description and things, which as we go on, it's one of the most important marketing things you do. You should have that ability off the top of your head to say exactly, and you can practice it. I mean, I'm not above writing out stuff and practicing them so that if somebody asks me, I'm prepared. That's a good technique to use.
And that's a critical one, because you're absolutely right. Because when authors come to me, the first question I ask is, tell me about your book. And it could be 5, 10, 15 minutes later, and they're still telling me about the book. And I'm like, that's a little bit too long. We need the 2 sentences,
Yep.
as you rightly say. But I think that's a really hard exercise to do, is to condense your book into those 2 sentences. Do you have any techniques to help us with that?
Always think of what the headline is. I just finished a book called The Vanishing, which is going to be coming out next month or so, probably in July at some point. But it's a new horror novel. The 2-sentence thing here would be to promote what would get somebody's interest. And the number one thing I would say is someone who lives in the Pine Barrens in New Jersey. And what if the Jersey Devil were real? I kind of just leave it at that. That makes them ask, well, what do you mean? What if the Jersey Devil is real? It's just, well, that's specific. And there's a NYPD detective who people are vanishing from her hometown, and she wants to find out why. So those are the 2 sentences. Basically, I would actually put them in the other order. I'd say a retired New York City detective has people vanishing in her hometown. She wants to find out why. And could the Jersey Devil be real? And there you've got 2 sentences that make everyone go, oh, okay, that's an interesting idea. And that's what you want to promote. You want to get people interested in your concept before they've read a word of what you've written.
You mentioned the headline. It's funny because literally before you and I got on the line together, I was reading a book by Jim Edwards about copywriting secrets. And he said the most important part of your copy is the headline. He said 80% of people often don't go further than reading the headline, because the headline leads to the next part, the copy, which is obviously explaining what your book is about or what anything's about in your sales letter. And yes, so getting somebody intrigued, and obviously with a fiction book, it's very different from a nonfiction, but it's still important to hone in on what is the key takeaway? What is somebody wanting to get out of this, and tuning into the emotion. I think, and bringing out that, and obviously horror, yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of emotion in horror. We have a technique, and for people who are looking to do their own descriptions, I break it down this way. I've seen this done a little differently sometimes, but it breaks down, the way I put it is AIDA. AIDA is, AIDA. These are the 4 things you need for a good description. The first one is A. The first A is attention. You need that headline to get their attention. Then the I is interest. So that's when you start to tell the story with a couple of paragraphs, probably short paragraphs. You increase that interest. Then you hit them with desire. Desire is where we say something, it's a riveting novel. If you like courageous female protagonists and historic Native American legends, that's where we create the desire. And the final thing is action. Every book description needs an action line, like "By the Vanishing for a spine-tingling woodland fright tonight." You have to have that final action. This is what I want you to do. You've read my description. The final line is, this is what I want you to do. It's a very good formula. Getting attention, interest, desire, and action. You focus in on what every good book description needs.
I know that is a fabulous formula that's been used over and over again in any kind of copywriting. And yes, listeners, if you take that and, even if it is a nonfiction, and you look at those different headlines, the attention, the interest, the desire, and the action, what could you put in those spaces? And maybe it's a couple of words, and you could string that together and make up something that would be compelling for people to want to read what you have to offer, because you've got a message. Everybody's got a message. I mean, RJ, you've got a message in your book, correct?
Yes. Yeah, very much. My books are designed to be entertainment. I'm an entertainer. I'm now using the written word to entertain instead of me up on a stage. It's got more than that. It's the thing about fiction is you can end a situation in a way that you would like it to. And I'm not necessarily saying it should always have a happy ending, but I'm a very big fan of Dean Koontz. And one of the things Mr. Koontz does in his writing is he makes you grateful for the human existence. It uplifts you within this story where some very bad things happen to some very nice people. With a message like that, fiction is a really good way to do it. The three most important things for any book, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, besides your description is one of those three. Your cover, very important. People do judge a book by its cover. And the third thing is your keywords. And a lot of people neglect that. And not only should you create really good keywords for your book, but if you can insert them into the description a little bit, that also helps people find your work.
I love that you talked about the cover and the importance of a cover.
Oh, yes.
I know that one of the things that I say to authors is you have to be 110, 120% in love with that book cover, because if you're not, if there's any part of that book cover you're not happy with, it's going to psychologically, without you even realizing it, it's going to affect your sales because you're not as proud of it as you would be if, as I say, if you're just goo-goo, gaga over it.
And one of the things I always recommend, and again, this is the school of doing it the hard way, is know what your genre is. You know, whether it's nonfiction or fiction, know what your genre is. I mean, you know, with The Vanishing, I know it's a horror novel. I know what it is. So go look at the horror bestsellers on Amazon. Look at their covers. Look at the fonts they use. Look at how it's presented, because you'll quickly see the flaws in your own cover if you're looking at what's selling number one and number two. And I may not always agree with some of the top sellers, but I always learn something looking at them. It's very important to do that. And also reading the descriptions that these top sellers use is very, very important, so you can get a real feel as to what is selling in your genre.
And that doesn't matter which genre it is. I think that's a great formula, is to go into Amazon, look at what is selling, and take the best of the best. I'm doing that all the time. Yes, it's great. And obviously, keywords are essential, knowing what those are and using them. RJ, you mentioned the School of Hard Knocks. Let's go into that a little further. Talk to us about some of those hard knocks. I know that you've had a lot of trial and error. Talk to us a little bit about those things that our authors could avoid.
Error being the bigger of the trial part. When I first wanted to start publishing, I found I was going to self-publish, but I found a person who did marketing, and, I hired them for those first two books and spent a great deal of money. Now, on the plus side, they did get me in touch with the designer I use for my covers. It's the same designer I've been using all the time because she's just brilliant and she's very reasonable. A lot of what they did really did not help the book at all and cost a lot of money. I mean, they did get some reviewers and things, but now there are so many places you can get reviewers. There's so many ways to get people. And of course, what I do now is I organically, when I'm doing a launch, I send out to my mailing list. I have a mailing list now that's over 5,000. And I have two. I have a regular mailing list and a VIP list. The VIP list are these people who really like my work. And I put out an email that says, will you join my launch team? If you do, I'm going to want you to leave a review. I'm going to want you to post it on social media. I'm going to want you to. So I tell them up front what I'm going to ask of them. And then I give them the pitch. I will send you an advanced reader copy. And I do follow-up. I do follow-up email every week or twice a week before the launch. And I get everybody revved. And then the day of the launch, I send them a free book directly from Amazon, because sometimes there are tiny little changes between the advanced reader copy and the final. Then it counts as a verified sale, even with me gifting the book. And I tell them, you've got to put in the review, I received a free book in exchange for an honest review. It's been very good. It's been building a great deal. My last book launch, I got 14 reviews within the first couple of days from that group. Things like that are little things you can do, and you should do them yourself, because paying somebody a lot of money to do it sometimes doesn't work out the way you think.
Yeah, so those little things that can make a big difference. You mentioned reviews, and I was like, just going to say, talk to us about how you get reviews, because that is definitely a question I get over and over again. How do we get reviews for the book? So you've given us one way is that you've got raving fans already who, if you tell them to jump, I think they would jump. Yeah.
My VIP group, they have bought repeated copies of books. They've signed up for the VIP list, which you can only do from the ad and the front and back of the book. So that makes it a very specific way to do it. There's a second technique. You want to build an email list. First of all, get an email carrier. Like I use MailChimp, which I'm very pleased with. Very easy to use. But you have a way to sign up for that. And they can sign up on my website, or in the front and back of my book, I have an ad for a free giveaway novella. Now, the reason you put an ad in the front of the book, because a lot of people put an ad in the back of the book, but they don't put it on the front of the book. The reason you do that is when somebody goes online and is looking at your book at the peek inside on Amazon, they see the ad and then they go, oh, well, why don't I get the free book first? And then they get the free book and then decide, oh, okay, I like this guy. I'm going to buy more of his books. But that's a really good way to get them. I do recommend having free collection of stories, a free novella that you can give away and offer it on your website. And the new thing I'm adding now is I'm creating audiobooks that are giveaway. They're short, they're novellas, but it's a 2-hour audiobook that you can download from my website through BookFunnel, which I'm also a big fan of. That will get people to buy the audiobooks that I sell through Audible on Amazon. That's a really good technique. Signing up for something like BookFunnel, that would be the third thing I would recommend. And there's also Story Origin, which is Story Origin app, which is free. So if you do it now, it's free. But the whole point of a BookFunnel is they do promotions, multi-author promotions that you can sign up for. And if you have a giveaway novella, you can get people to sign up for your mailing list by just giving away the novella as part of promotions with other authors. And the nice part of that is you do a promotion with 60 other authors and you have 60 people sending out things that have your book listed in them. It's a very good technique for building. I think since the beginning of this year, I added 1,000 people to my mailing list. More than that at this point. I'd say about 1,500 since January, just with promotions I've been doing on BookFunnel.
The whole idea of that, of your mail list and just generating a list that you can use to market, is far more effective and far more powerful than relying on your Facebook or LinkedIn or any other of the social media platforms. Because I always say, and people who've been listening to my podcast will think I'm like a stuck record, but if something happened to social media and it went away, you'd lose all those fans and followers unless, of course, you've been able to transfer them over to your website by giving them something away. Now, you may not have a novella, but you could have a checklist. You could have a special report. You could have a little mini ebook. You could have tips. People love stuff that's of value, and it could be a high value to them, but easy and inexpensive to produce from you.
And also, when you have a nonfiction book, since I do want to include the nonfiction people in this, if you're doing a self-help book, if you can have some of the techniques you're going to go into elaborate explanation of further down in the book you sell, giving away some of those techniques in a little report or a novella that you can give to people, it's a very good thing. And it creates the interest in, oh, well, now I want to get the book because I want to learn all of these techniques. It's a very good thing. And with fiction, I mean, I have 3 giveaways right now. One is a collection of horror stories, which I've written over the years. One is a prequel to my In the Mind series before the first book. So if they read that free one, hopefully they're going to want to start reading the series. And the third one is sort of in the middle of the series. And it was just something I made for people who were reading the series and enjoying it. I just wanted to give them a little extra something.
giving them
Yes.
that extra something. And I know that some authors are concerned about giving stuff away because they say if I give it away, they're not going to buy the book or the audio book. So I say, give it away. I mean, the top people in this business, and I had somebody likes of Jay Bear, and go listen to his podcast, people, if you haven't already. And he'll say, give it all away, give it away, give it away. They're going to come back, because if you give stuff away, they're like, if you can give this value away, wow, what am I going to get if I pay for it?
Last month, I did a giveaway with Free Booksy. And anytime you're doing a free book promotion, I think very highly of Free Booksy, where I gave away the first 3 books of the In the Mind series because I was releasing the 9th book. I had a box set that was only available on Amazon, which is good because page counts. I mean, that's like a 1,200 page trilogy. I had so many people. Well, I got a bunch of new reviews from people who read the trilogy and liked it. And the sales of the 4th book went way up because the people, I mean, we gave away over 2,000 copies of the trilogy through Amazon. My sales for the 4th book went way up because people had read the 3 books for free and they were like, okay, let me get the 4th one and continue. And I'm seeing sales down the line as people are reading the books and going through them, which is the point of having a long-term series, is you want people to be interested and excited about the next book.
That can work for nonfiction as well as fiction, is having a trilogy, having more than one book, because if they like you the first time around, they're going to like you the second time around, and hopefully the third, and ongoing.
I just want to throw this in. I don't know who said this, but it was this. The way to sell more books is to write more books to sell. And I've seen sales increase as I have more product, as I am putting out more books. I see more sales. And I think that is just so true. If you want to sell more books, create more books and people will buy them.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of truth and a lot of wisdom in that. Well, Jay, if our listeners wanted to get hold of you and find out more or read some of your books, what's the best way for them to do that?
The best way is on my website, which is www.rjlewis.com, but it's spelled A-R-J-A-Y. It's the phonetic of RJ. And the reason for that is there was already an R period, J period Lewis, who went out and became a bestseller before I started publishing. I decided to go with the A-R-J-A-Y Lewis to make myself stand out because she writes very, very different genres than I do. And I don't want people to get confused. Also, you can find rjmagic.com. That's just the letter R, the letter J, magic, M-A-G-I-C. That's my website for my entertainment work, but it also has the links on the bottom to my author site and my other sites so that you can choose which one you're interested in and find out more about me that way.
And of course, if you like horror, you got to get the books, because I'm not a fan of horror. I love detective, but I'm not into horror. But hey, many people who are, they love it and go for it.
I didn't like horror either. And then I wrote this story that sold to H.P. Lovecraft Magazine of Terror. And I just started writing. And it's really rough because, I scare myself. But that's what you got to do with horror. You want to scare yourself and therefore your audience.
That really is funny. Well, it's one of the things that I don't like. I don't want to scare myself. I do that enough in other ways. RJ, if you were to leave our listeners with a golden nugget, what would that be?
This is the best piece of advice I can give anyone. We all know how we edit our books and how many times we edit our books. And one secret that I have discovered is after you have your editor, and always hire an editor, as we know, but after you have your editor go through it, put on headphones and one page at a time, have your computer read you the book. And boy, I wrote that when I meant then, and I wrote then when I meant there. I reviewed the work repeatedly, but my eye didn't catch it, but my ears catch it. And that is the best secret I can give you. Listen to your book one page at a time, and you will be amazed at what works and what doesn't work.
you gave me that advice a few weeks ago, and I've done it ever since. And I thank you for that.
It makes a difference, doesn't it?
It certainly does. And now I'm just putting all my copy into Word, and then I'm listening to it, and it makes a big difference. So thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. It was amazing, as I knew it would be. Thank you for being here. And thank you all for taking time out of your precious day to listen to this interview. And I sincerely hope that it sparks some ideas you can use to sell more books. Here's wishing you much book marketing success.
The time is now to take action and finally build your book-selling empire. And the great news is that Susan is here to help you. Visit bookmarketingmentors.com and sign up for a free 15-minute book marketing strategy session with Susan. She'll help you discover your first steps to marketing and selling your book. Only those who take action are rewarded, so visit bookmarketingmentors.com, and we'll see you again next week.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.